What is going on, everybody? Happy whenever it is you're watching this. We're going to talk a little U.S. Open. Pretty excited. Another major. As you guys know, I'm going to be gone in a couple weeks for a while, and really excited to send some fire some at this one. We'll talk through what we're doing. I'm going to share my screen, but it's going to be a. This is not my final exposure. This is just where I'm at the moment, and still have a lot of work left to do. Welcoming in Kenny Hyder. Ken, good to see you, man. How's life in Hawaii?
Good. Beautiful as always.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little jealous, but I'll be out there not too long, so pumped up.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna talk through this. Anything you want to touch on before? Obviously, we know it's a giant course, and we want bombers in general. We want guys who are good on approach, but maybe like everything else, because there's so much narrative going that way, and also there's narrative against guys we'll talk about at the top. I'm curious to see how it really plays out, and I think the ownership people are scrambling everywhere because it's tough to figure out what people are actually going to be owned in these tournaments right now. So with that said, Kenny, anything you got before we jump into going tier by tier and see what we're interested in?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. It's supposed to be the hardest course like ever.
Yep.
And tough conditions in the U.S. Open at that. So, we haven't really seen anything like that, at least in the last couple of years that I can really remember. So that'll be interesting. It's also kind of interesting from a DFS perspective because come Sunday, there could be golfers that just actually lose points, so you could be vying for just losing less than other people at the top of the leaderboard. So it'll be an interesting week.
Yeah, and I've heard like wave talk. I honestly, it all feels like a little noisy to me. It's really hard to know when rain's, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm having trouble with the waves. Did you weigh that in at all? Because I did some research, and it's like, yeah, Friday afternoon is probably before that. I mean, the weekend's going to get nasty, just like weather-wise, like rainy. But
Yeah.
everything looks pretty similar to me until like Friday afternoon. Maybe you get a little bit of rain, so maybe you say that it's a little easier. I don't know. It feels like nothing to me. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I'm basically gonna just not factor it in this week.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, let's get to it because we've got a lot of big names and we've got a lot of really good players down in cheaper tiers, which is going to make it. Look, they finally made Scotty the price he should have been a long time ago. Now, I know this is where my ownership is on him right now. I don't know for sure at all that I end up with anywhere near that. I actually think that but the problem is I think a lot of people will fade it too and go for the Rory. I'm sorry for the Bryson and Rom combo, especially. I think that's going to be the most popular. I think it's pretty close though, but I also do think people will force Scheffler, and so all three of those guys are going to be the main ones above 10K everybody plays. What do you see? Who do you like? Who will you be under and overweight on, do you think?
So it's hard to not like Scotty, even at this price, just because there is a lot of talent, in the starting at the bottom of the 7K range, which is where you'd kind of be looking at if you click Scotty first. So I'm surprised to see that he's projected to be so high owned at that price, but kind of makes sense. In the top of the range for me, I think my favorite outside of Scotty is going to end up being Xander. And that's more just purely from an ownership perspective over Bryson, who's projected to be a little bit higher. But I love Bryson this week. I'm going to have a ton of him too. But I think I'm fine, being under on Rory, even though he's low owned. I know you were saying, it's possibly a good.
I don't think there's really anything under. I don't think there's anything to be under. I think he's going to be 3 or 4.
You think what?
Owned, which makes it
really.
I really do. Yeah. There's too much going on. And even he said in his press conference that he made birdie on the last 2 holes in his warm-up round and he shot 81.
Right.
Something about this feels like, so I don't know where I end up here, but I know I'll be forcing him into some big buy-ins and I'll definitely be above the field on him. Just because, look, it's not going to take much. I really think somewhere between 5 and 10% at the most. How he's in a different price tier than guys who are projecting better than him. Like everybody's projecting better than him who's below him.
Yeah.
I just don't see how it happens. but we'll see. I mean, I bumped his closer to Goldie's projection. SaberSim's got him really low, and I think that this I don't know. So to me, I in my higher buy-ins, I definitely am going to go out of my way to play some Rory builds, just because one thing is like, say what you will about everything else, like if it was like a month ago and we were playing this, I think we'd be talking about Rory and Scotty similarly owned. You know, seems like a lot of recency bias based on 2 rounds for a tournament he didn't really care about that.
Well, I think it would be Rory would be much higher over Scotty at that price differential. You know,
fair enough. Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily wrong. So I'm kind of in on the idea of again, this is where I'm at right now. I'm probably going to end up with more, and I'll probably be overweight everybody except for Scotty in this range, to be honest. And that's because he's going to be 50% owned. It doesn't mean I'll have none of them. I'm probably going to end up with like 25% to 30%. But even if he wins the tournament, and I brought this up before, we've seen players who have won. We've seen a lot of majors actually, where guys have had the winner without like the winner was chalky and they still weren't, like when Rahm won his major, like which one was it? The US Open?
Yep.
Yeah. He wasn't on any of the winning lineups, you know? So getting those other guys can actually be very valuable and sort of, I don't want to say like starting slower, because I think you really want to be playing at least one of 6 guys in every lineup, and that would be the top 5 here, along with Oberg, because I feel like those are the guys who literally play the style that should be able to contend and win. We'll get into the next range in a minute, but just something about the Rory thing is just, well, you know me, when recency bias goes a certain way, I want to go the other direction. You know what I mean? Right. I just don't have it in me to think like, okay, well now he just can't play anymore. That's just not where my head's at.
Well, and I think that that's especially right in, you know, the lottery this week, where there's, you know, a couple 100,000 people, right? So for me, I'm not, you know, I'm not really playing those.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just makes sense, because there's no reason why he couldn't win this. You know what I mean? Just because, well, he had a couple of bad weeks. Yeah, he won the Masters, has been on a hangover, whatever. But you know, I think I'm focusing on smaller field events this week. So I think for me, with the low ownership there, I don't mind just not playing him, because if he's not going to be owned, then it's not going to affect me. You know what I mean?
Right. And I do think when I say 5%, I think it's more for higher buy-ins and single entries. I think he still ends up somewhere in like 8 to 10% in the lottery, just for what it's worth. It's still pretty low though. I mean, for a guy who easily you could have played this tournament a month ago, like we just said, he might have been 35% owned at this price. And now we're talking about, you know, and that's just from a game theory standpoint, like where I'm at. So 9K range, I am not overwhelmed by this very small 9K range. Where are you at? I guess I'll say my takes first on this one, and we'll sort of go back and forth. I kind of am interested in trying to get to a little bit more Cantlay, because I don't think he's going to get any play. And he actually I know his major results and all this stuff. He's playing well, and the course actually does, you know, suit a lot of the things that he can do. Good long irons, all that stuff. I just think that him being overlooked just sort of caught my eye. And Oberg is, I don't care what anybody says. I'm going overweight on Oberg. Yeah, for one thing, he played phenomenal last week. He had the one weird quadruple bogey that almost allowed him to miss the cut. He just couldn't make up enough strokes after that. But it was literally hit the ball in this. They have this thing on that one hole where it's like it's on a slant, and he hit it 4 times in a row from one part of this to the other. I honestly couldn't believe that he even tried to play it, because it was like a very weird thing. So he was like 4 times in the rough, and then actually made a great job to save a +4 or whatever you guys call it. So Oberg, and then I don't mind being what I thought was going to be a little overweight Maury, but because everybody's talked about how they don't want to play him this weekend, not long enough, and all these things. I just think good enough golfer, big enough price discount. It wouldn't surprise me if he can come in the top 5. So those are the 2 that I have ownership on. I'm not very interested in Justin Thomas, but I wouldn't be surprised if by the time I'm done, I have as much Cantlay as I do with Maury. What do you say here?
Yeah, for me, it's pretty much just Maury that I'm focused on, who I actually really like this week, and I like that other people don't like him. He's also the only. I was watching, you know, they've got live from the US Open on Golf Channel all week, and I've just been watching it, you know, basically all day long. And they had this one segment where they're asking people, you know, asking pros that are playing this week if they would just take even par right now to finish the tournament. And, you know, everyone, Justin Thomas and, you know, all these, like Ben Griffin, all these guys are like, oh, I'll take even par. except for Morikawa, who said, "No, I'll take my chances."
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love the confidence coming from him. I mean, he's accurate off the tee. I don't think being super long is necessarily going to be a super huge advantage this week because it's still a course management thing. The course is going to be super difficult no matter what.
Right.
You're going to be out of the, out of the fairways a lot. And, it's not really going to matter in a lot of scenarios based on just what I've heard from, interviews and everyone that's on the course and everything. If you're off the fairway, most of them you're just going to be pitching out anyway. So there's a stroke no matter how far up, in the rough you are. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I like that he's an accurate driver. I don't care that he's not as long. I like that. I mean, he at one time was the best iron player. Obviously, Scotty is now, but people have questions about his recent form and stuff like that. But it's a major week. He's one of the guys that can win this tournament, and has won majors before and won on top golf courses before. And every time he's done it, it's been sneaky because every week or every time that he's like what was it Genesis last year, he came up and it was like in contention, and everyone was like, "Oh, what?" Like everyone's had kind of missed that, and I'm kind of hoping that that's what's going to happen this week, and I'm going to be pretty heavy over the field on Morikawa. Other than that, I believe you're right with Oberg. I'm just a little bit more hesitant, but
Sure.
I think for me anyway, I will have probably just over the field in the larger field events. I probably won't be playing him in any single entries or anything like that. But
Yeah.
other than that, not really too interested in Cantlay or JT. I mean, JT is a member at the course, so there is something to that, and he's also been doing pretty great this year. So I won't be fading him, but he's not one of my favorite plays of the week.
Yeah, he's probably my lowest owned guy, 9K plus. But like you said, I mean, look, I'm playing at 362 lineups, so he's still in 13 of them. You know what I mean? As of right now,
Right.
he ended up in more. All right, then we've got another small range in the 8Ks, which is just kind of interesting how they did it. They really did soften the pricing on everybody not named Scotty Scheffler, so you can get in whatever you want, which is why I think Scotty's ownership is as high as it is. I think at first there's like, you're like sort of, oh my god, like he could not win, he could win the tournament and I could win without him.
Right.
But then you see that, did you go down here and you see that there's a lot of really good golfers in other ranges. So for me, this actually does reflect a little bit of what I feel. I think Fleetwood is he's good with bogey avoidance, good straight, all these things. You don't need him to win. I think he's a solid enough play to feel like, okay, we can feel safe-ish about Tommy, not only making the cut, but actually like being somewhat there. He's also played really well on tough courses. And I think Tommy makes a lot of sense. I think Neiman makes a lot of sense as well. I'm a little disturbed by how popular he keeps getting. And when he's popular, it hasn't really worked out that well for us. So little bit of maybe I bump him down, a quarter of a point or something, and just to see what happens. But I do like these guys. And again, I know you're going to see a lot of guys I'm underweight on, but mostly I think it's probably going to end up being Scotty because I don't like these guys are getting no ownership. Shoot me in the head, whatever. Tell me I'm an idiot. I'm not going to just like say absolutely not to Brooks. We've seen this happen before with him. As he already won as like an 85-1 long shot before a couple years ago. He's 100-1. He's never had those odds against him, and I think it's probably the right thing to do just from a game theory standpoint to be overweight the guys everyone's forgetting, which are Brooks and Hovland. So it's probably going to take away from my Neiman ownership when all is said and done, and he's probably the big guy I fade in this range. But otherwise. And then you throw Hideki in the mix. Hideki actually has he's one of these guys who has the skill set to win this kind of tournament. It's just a matter of what he has going. And with him, it's really hard to track because like when he won the Masters, he was playing terrible leading into that, There's a lot of things to consider down in this range. And just the fact that it's getting no ownership is maybe why I'm a little bit higher on it personally. How about you?
Yeah, so for me, I love Fleetwood this week. He's, I think, just in great form. As everyone knows, this is an all-around golfer. This is going to be needed this week. He's also, I think there's something maybe. I'm just making this up, but maybe something to some of the guys that have played a lot of links golf. I know it's not a links course, but I feel like psychologically it kind of might be similar. So I like guys, the Europeans this week anyway. I'm not really interested too much in Neiman. I mean, I know that he's been playing great and he's like the winningest player on the Live Tour or whatever.
Well, actually, you see, he's been the best player on Live lately. Have you seen that? The guy we'll talk about a little bit later, who I like quite a bit, Carlos Ortiz.
Oh.
So we'll talk.
Yeah,
about
actually, interesting. I'm excited that he's back in the field. I haven't really looked much into how he's been doing lately, but yeah, for me, I guess my favorite is going to be Hovland. And I love that he's projected to be low owned, so that I'm going to be even probably heavier on him. And other than that, I'm not really too interested. Not really interested in Brooks. I hear what you're saying. I just don't. I don't know. I'll have some exposure to the field, but I guess or to him. But I guess I'll probably be. Well, I guess he's projected to be pretty low owned.
I think he'll like 2 to 5%, and probably only 5% in the lottery.
Yeah, so I'll definitely be over the field on him because that won't be hard. But he won't be a heavy. I probably won't have him double digits.
Yeah.
Hideki, I also understand what you're saying. He just sprays it off the tee. So this is the worst week to do that. And
I know.
So for me, I have no problem avoiding him. Definitely going to be underweight there. So yeah, for me, the core in the 8K range for me is going to be Hovland and Fleetwood.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. So, and again, this is what I mean when I say that I don't like. Okay, so we have to deal with crazy chalk extreme chalk from Lowry, Connors, and Straka in this range. And there are some guys I really like. So I will be underweight Straka. I will be underweight. I don't care what it says right now. I'm probably going to The only reason I'm not underweight Lowry, because it actually makes too much sense. And every single person I respect who knows more about golf than I do is said you got to play Lowry this week at 7,800. I don't know that I need to. I'm actually going to lower my minimum on him, and again, we'll see what I end up with. But I don't think we have to do all that. Tyrrell Hatton at half the ownership piques my interest a little bit, and I think that I probably end up with just as much. Actually, no, I probably end up with more of Hatton, less of Straka, less of Lowry. Then I love our guy. We've talked about this a little bit, and it's not even our guy. It's a guy we literally have never talked about playing, and we've just had a couple of chats about one and done this week. And give me the Spieth at 7,500. He's hitting the ball further than he's ever hit it. He's playing great for him, and he is also a member, as you pointed out to me over our text chain yesterday. So I'm big on this Spieth idea, and I like that he's not getting a ton of love, although his ownership has spiked a lot as the week has gone on. I think other people sort of caught on to it. A lot of talk about Keegan. I probably end up below the field on him. Henley, I'm going to be a little bit above the field. I'll be well under the field on Connors. I'm going to be, it's not going to take much. I'll probably be right near the field by the time all is said and done on Finau, who just doesn't look right in any way, but it's just a price thing versus the ability. I actually considered Xing him out, and I was like, no, I don't need to do that. Underweight Cam Smith, which is not going to be anybody, but I really like, I'm happy to go right back to Ben Griffin, and even with some ownership. I'm talking about everybody in this range, because I think this is the range you have to get right the most. And then I actually like the idea of Minwoo versus what Minwoo's actually been doing lately. I still think it's worth taking some stabs at him, but I don't think I want to have anything crazy on him. The one who I'm considering that this number may end up being 25 is Matt Fitzpatrick. This is the exact type of course that he can be competitive on. He has played these things well, and he has been in a little bit better form lately. He can hit it far, he can hit it straight, and when he's on. And then, of course, we have the other one who I'm heavier on, Sam Burns. Those are sort of how I see that range. What do you like here?
Yeah, I'm going a little bit zaggy here on against you. I really like Shane. I've liked him all season. I haven't really been wrong.
No, he's
the only
great.
times I've been, is just not getting enough of him, usually because of other people. And it's weird how, I feel like he's dropped in price too. And it feels sometimes guys like that drop in price, you start forgetting them,
Well, everybody dropped because of the major.
Right. No. But so I really like Shane. I'll be over the field on him. I'll probably be right around the field with Sepp, just because he is playing some of the best golf in the world right now this season. So, I'd be afraid to be under or even close to under. So I'm probably going to have to go there, even though he's not, not a favorite of mine to watch or follow or anything like that. He is that good now. And I think you'd be remiss to be fading him at all. I like the Terrell play at low ownership specifically. I mean, we know that he's, super straight driver. He can, he's accurate. He's got an all-around game. So I like him as well. And then, yeah, Spieth is by far and away my favorite play in the 7K range, for all the reasons you mentioned, as well as just knowing that this is going to be the most difficult course that we've ever watched these guys play, and knowing that the scores are going to be higher than they've likely ever been, and knowing that there's going to be a lot of trouble and a lot of situations to get out of. Well, if you think about guys who can get out of situations, it's Spieth. He's like the guy. So, super creative golfers this week, I think, have an edge just because, in the high variance, recovery shots, there's a lot of skill there, and I think that that's going to apply really well to this course. So I really, really like Spieth. I'll be heavily overweight on him. And then, I'm going to be mostly avoiding Keegan. Connors, no. I mean, just with the ownership being projected, like these guys, I think, like you said, I agree that this is the range to get right. And, for me, I think that that includes trying to fade the chalk where it is, where I don't think that there's a distinct advantage against the guys around them. And I don't like Connors better than Russell Henley. I don't like Connors better than Keegan Bradley. I don't like Connors better than, I guess I like him better than Minwoo. In the rain, but and Cam Smith. But I don't really, or Finau, and I don't really like Finau this week either. But he's not, he's not really, wouldn't be a focus for me. And at the projected ownership being so high, I have no problem fading Connors. So I guess who are we looking at? So Shane, Sepp, Jordan Spieth. And then, Ben Griffin and Sam Burns as well are going to be main targets for me. Ben Griffin's just been playing incredible golf. Like you said last week when we were texting back and forth, watching him, he's quickly becoming one of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
And, no reason to get off of him here. So I'll be ponying up with him again this week. And then also Sam Burns, who I think looked so great last week and finally is like really coming back into form. And I love that. I love Sam Burns and I like to play him. And I'm glad that he's in good form. So I'll be over the field with him this week. The other interesting ones.
Think he'd have less ownership? Probably.
Maybe.
Every time somebody wins, they never get owned.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
In the playoff. By the way,
I do think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say he was like at one point he was like 90-1 to win the tournament, and he ended up in the playoff. It's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah. I do think both Sungjae and Wyndham Clark are really interesting at such projected, low projected ownership. Wyndham Clark, as we know, has won a U.S. Open. He also, and that was the year where they, both Ricky Fowler and Xander shot opening records rounds on day one that week. So there's a lot of debate about that not being a true test of a U.S. Open. But, at 7K flat and having been a major winner, we know that he can get the job done. So I'm going to be over the field because it'll be easy for him. And then same with Sungjae too, who's, just a well-rounded golfer, doesn't really struggle too much off the tee. So I think also, just at that low ownership, it'd be easy for me to get over the field on them as well.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I struggled with the Wyndham Clark thing because I actually thought, okay, this is a place I could take a stand, and that's I decided I'm going to take more of my stand with Fitzpatrick, whether or not he's in his 10% of my lineups or not. I'm gonna go in when I do my hand builds. He's going to be very heavily featured in those. I really think that it was between him and Wyndham Clark of guys I kind of thought were interesting to take a stand on. And like you said, Wyndham Clark has won a U.S. Open, and a lot of the same talk we're hearing now. It's different because we all know Oakmont. Everybody knows Oakmont. You know, they've played there before, and they were playing. You know, the LA the Beverly Hills Country Club. You know, whatever. People hadn't, but people were saying they were making it the hardest course. We heard all that noise all week long, and it felt very similar to this week. And none of it ended up being all that accurate. And by the way, Tommy Fleetwood did tie the course record with those guys on day 4 that week. Just had to throw a little positive.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. All right. So look, what you see on my 8K, on my under 6-7K guys is basically where I'm at on them. I did set my exposures, my favorite being Harris English. He'll probably be most. He plays really well on tough courses. McIntyre is going to be popular. I am probably just underweight just because I think that like there's other guys I could consider that, you know, I kind of wanted to spread out a little more down here. But right now it's Harris English, Ryan Fox for me, which I'm surprised I'm actually not getting even a little more Fox. I thought I would. Who else do I have? Anyway, Cam Young is one that I think I could actually talk myself into going higher on. I thought he was going to be more popular based on what I was hearing, and it doesn't seem to be the case. And Cam Young, for anybody, like if he's got it going, he's actually going to be in contention. That's my take. If he, you know, we know the bad side. The other one I really like here is, and he's been great, and he's been killing it off the tee, is Taylor Pendrith. He was my pick to win last week, which didn't come. He had one bad day, so it didn't have a chance to win, but he looked like he was going to. He was in the top 5 basically, you know, 3 of the days or whatever. Those guys, throw some Nick Taylor, and then the one I'll be heavy. I like Ryan Gerard some. I think I can maybe bump this up a little bit. I think we're gonna get some 5K guys in a minute. Thorburn Olesen is one that makes like a little bit of sense, but really he had one great round with a great putting round last week. But at the same time, he can actually hit, like he can hit the ball really far. Steven Yeager, fastest speed increase of any player, I believe, on his. That's a big thing that they're saying on the swings, and I like Yeager as probably the one I have the highest exposure to here. I also wouldn't mind if I ended up with a little more Gary Woodland, and that's sort of my take of the 6K range.
Yeah, there's a ton of guys here. I also really like Harris English. I don't like that he's projected to be super high owned, but I'm still going to be playing him in my single entry smaller field events. Wait, I scrolled to the wrong. Okay. Also, I'm going to get a little bit of Patrick Reed this week just because I can, and I think that there's some leverage there just on a lower ownership at play as well. I also like Ryan Fox. I mean, he's been playing great. He's now won twice this season. No reason to really not like him. And I think when you win twice in a season, we're not worried about the next week being a problem. He's playing great golf right in the middle of major season. So because that's what these guys want to do. I also I like Akshay this week. I think that he has a good shot. I just want to also, it's kind of a weird thing, but I think, him and Bobby Mack being lefties, I think, sometimes on these, when things are really difficult for some guys, that the lefties have an easier look at it just because of the way the, the angles come into the greens and stuff like that can be. So I think that there's maybe a little bit of something there. So I like both Akshay and Bobby Mack, both because they've been playing great as well. Bobby Mack, especially because he's a big guy, strong. Shouldn't have a problem getting out of this kind of rough. And then I'm kind of curious about Matt McNeely this week. He's got no U.S. Open history, which could be a good or a bad thing. You know what I mean? Better than having a bad history anyway. So I'm probably going to have a little bit of exposure to him, and then. I agree about Taylor Pendrith, who's also been playing great this week, has a well-rounded game. And who else do I have here?
Well, we didn't talk about the one guy I have. If I want to throw one, because I forgot to mention that I really like Carlos Ortiz. Like, I have my list, and this is for the lottery, and mostly these are lottery tournaments. But I actually think I'm going to play Ortiz in some bigger buy-ins. I really like what he's doing. He can hit the ball far, and it seems to be lost on everyone else that he's been basically the one of, if not the best player on Live for the last, couple months.
Yeah, I agree.
We were playing this guy years ago before I even played DFS golf.
Oh, I know. I loved him. Him. I mean, he made me good money back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for pointing that out because I do need to mark him down. Yeah. Other than that, I don't really know. Probably some Nick Taylor, just because he's cheap and he's a great golfer. Like it's kind of, I feel like a little odd that he's way down here. And yeah, I also agree about potentially Thorbjorn Olsen, which I'm glad that you said that because I was kind of questioning liking him, but I think he's kind of a sneaky play that could actually do pretty well. And then I'm going to also have a little bit of old time, just for good time memories, exposure to Richard Bland, who did great for me in the U.S. Open when I was at Torrey. And he's been playing fine as well. You know what I mean? And he also, his history, the reason I spotted him back when Rom won that year, was because he had leading up to it, he'd like won the British Masters. He'd won, a couple of other events like in the UK and stuff like that. So, I think that this type of golf course is an advantage for him. Not necessarily that it's a difficult one, but just the style of golfer that it is. I think that he's had probably a little bit more exposure to than, a lot of these guys that are super cheap. So,
and that sort of brings up an interesting thing. Is I think that like the natural thing is we want bombers, guys can win, guys can get there faster. But if you have a guy who's on some holes that are just playing for par, like they don't even want to mess around and try it, like, and he sort of fits that sort of criteria. You know what I mean? This is a par hole for me. I'm not going down there. I'm not going to try and hit a 480-yard par 4. I'm most likely not going to be getting anywhere within 30 feet of the hole, and I'll just take my par and move on. That's what you have to do in some of these things. So I don't hate that idea. I did put this little point 2 next to him just for your benefit.
Nice.
All right, under 5K, I'll lead in with the guys who I've got, and you can see I'm sort of spread out. I'm just getting a tiny bit of a number of guys. I have some that I actually like a little better than others. Matt McCarty is somebody I could see getting a little more exposure to. Actually thought I had him at minimum of 3. But again, these percentages might seem small, but it's a huge, and even if you change the projection, it makes a huge difference in terms of how much you're actually going to get exposure. Like I said, I'll hand build my big buy-ins. Who else am I getting to down here that I liked? It's actually not as much as I thought I did, but I know I have somebody. Yeah, there we go. Okay, Chris Goddard playing his best golf ever, and has actually been like, I don't know that you necessarily, if you're playing Scotty and Rory together, or Scotty and one of Bryce, or even Rahm, then maybe you need a 5K guy. Maybe you don't as much this week. But I think that I could go a little bit higher here. I think Goddard, and by the way, hits the hell out of the ball. Playing his best golf ever. Maybe it translates over, maybe it doesn't. But I like the idea of taking a little bit of a stand on him. I didn't get to a whole bunch else. I thought, Ballister, I want to make sure I had at least 1% of, because I think he's super talented. That's really most of the 5K range. Obviously, with the U.S. Open, you get a bunch of just names you've never seen before because some accountant from Arkansas is qualified somehow. So I'm not as interested in the 5K range here as I was in the at the Masters. I guess that was the last one.
Right.
Anything for you in the 5Ks that stands out?
Yeah, a couple. Starting off at 5,900, I'm gonna have a little exposure to Echeverria.
Yep.
Who just always seems to be one of those guys that's like somewhere, towards the top of the leaderboard on day one, randomly, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy's playing
how did that
well
happen? Yeah.
Yeah. Also Sam Stevens, who's been playing great golf recently, although he's projected to be not that highly owned, but higher than most of the range, I guess. So it's not that 2%. Sneaky of a play. Yeah. Also, I'll have some exposure to Eduardo Molinari, who's been playing pretty well actually on the European Tour, and is actually like one of the most accurate hitters in the field. So I'm gonna really like that accuracy stat this week. Another one right there next to him, Junichiro Kozuma. Also been playing pretty well on the Live Tour, but he's got a pretty well-rounded stat profile. And then another accuracy play, a name we haven't used in a while. Emiliano Grillo or Grillo, depending on who you are. Who also, super accurate guy, pretty well-rounded stats, including, pretty great approach plays, which I think is going to be important this week. I'm with you on the Matt McCarty. And then who else we got here? Alvaro Ortiz, actually another accuracy guy who's coming off the Corn Ferry Tour. But, in the bigger field events, I feel like, there might be these guys make the cut and you're fine. You know what I mean? Because they really are solid receivers. And going to your point, how far do you have to dig? I do think even if you're going, Scotty Bryson or something like that, yeah, you don't have to get down here. But if you do dig down here, then you can get exposure to, the narrow 8 and 9K ranges. You know what I mean? Also potentially. So,
right.
Not that you have to, but just looking for any potential there. Another one for me down here, who's been playing great on the Asian tour, and there's not really much info about him, is Scott Vincent, who I'll have a little bit of as well.
That was not the name I was expecting to hear when you said the Asian tour.
Yeah, right.
His name was Joe Smith. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, he's like racking up a bunch of top 10s on the Asian tour. So why not give him a little bit of a shot? I'm also, I had Joe Highsmith marked here, but I don't know that I can get there. I hear what you're saying, but I don't know that I will be able to. And then,
oh no, I was joking. The joke, I was just saying how common of a name Scott Vincent is for like an American, and I actually
yeah.
Meaning Highsmith at all. I think I have.
No, I know.
It's just funny that it worked out that way.
Yeah. And yeah, I also like a little bit of Chris Gotterup. It's scary because he's actually does kind of spray it off the tee, but he is, he has the distance, he has that club speed, so that might be an advantage for him as well. And he's been playing pretty decent golf, like most. I mean, besides the missed cut last week, which
he had a weird missed cut. I think he missed it on the number too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's probably as far down as I'll really get.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, man, you weren't here last week. That John Kiefer, man, he destroyed my lineup. I really believed in this guy, and then he fucking goes out there and he was great, in great shape, and then he went 5 over 3 holes, and I was like, it was so frustrating because I had like, it didn't end up I wouldn't have ended up winning, but I had like at the time they were all in the top 5. It was Mackenzie Hughes, Pendrith, and Taylor all playing together in the top 5 at the end of day 2, and I was like so pissed off when that happened. So, all right, well, we're gonna play the game, and you're gonna go first here, Kenny. Who is going to win this tournament?
Scotty.
Okay, I'm glad you said it because I have an aversion to saying it just because of my contrarian nature, and I don't really know what my other excuse is. And I'm going to do what you usually do here. I want to say the guy you usually do, but I actually think I like Rahm better than I like Bryce. But I'm putting Rahm with a little Bryce asterisk.
Okay.
Bryce. Okay. All right. So then we've got the under 10K to top 5.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, 11K to top 5. Yeah, you could go under 11K because you can get 2 spend ups if you want to.
Yeah. I'm still. Yeah. I'll just say Morikawa.
So you got Maury. Okay, that means I'm going to have to get more Maury based on the rules of this game. So Oberg is who I'm taking, and then we go to under 9K to top 10.
Under 9K to top 10. I'll take Shane Lowry.
You got Lowry. Okay, so you're going to force me to change my builds. We'll see if it works. So I think the right answer is Fleetwood, but I do want to mention that I think I end up with a lot of Victor Hovland. It's weird because I don't think Fleetwood has much of a chance to win this tournament, but I do think he has a chance to play well and be in the top 10. I think Victor Hovland actually has a chance to win this tournament, and I think he's like if you're betting like to win, I would bet him ahead of Fleetwood. But if you're betting the top 10, I think you take Fleetwood. All right. 7K to 8K, or sorry, no, under 8K to top 20.
Jordan Spieth.
You dropped all the way down for Lowry, and now you're taking the Spieth too, which I like. And I was going to say Spieth, so I'm going to circle it. Boy, that's leaving me in a funky position, I guess. I'm stuck between two guys, and weirdly, I have more ownership of other guys beneath them. So try to figure it out. It's somewhere between Ben Griffin, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Sam Burns. I think I'm going to say Fitz just to keep my contrarianness going a little bit.
Oh wow! I guess I'm gonna have to play some more.
I'm telling you, I have a feeling this week is going to be his week. But I've said that before, and I've been right in the past, but I haven't been right for a couple of years.
I don't know. Yeah, the thing that scares me about Fitz is just his accuracy, his distance, and his greens and regulations are all his worst stats.
No. His distance is fine.
Yeah, he's averages under 300.
Wait,
but
no. Wait, hold on. What are you looking at?
Well, there's in terms of distance, Matt Fitzpatrick in the field is 97th in distance.
Keep in mind, some of the people who are playing in the field are playing in like courses where you can just go out there and hit it as hard as you want and not care about anything.
I understand, but the fact stands, and the official over the last 36 rounds, Matt Fitzpatrick is 97th out of 156 in distance. So he's definitely not even close to.
He was long enough to win the U.S. Open before.
Yeah, well, I don't. I mean, like I said, I don't think the distance is necessarily the key or one of the key stats to be focusing on this week. But he also doesn't have accuracy, and he also is, got a terrible record going on greens and regulation, which, these are the things that you're going to have this week. He's not going to be able to put it together. Just getting crafty around the greens and putting it well. Like he the approach, the drives, fairways have to be hit first, which he's just not good at, and then he's also just not good at hitting greens. So it's gonna be really hard for him, I think.
That's fair enough. Rose Miller said Jordan Matthews, which is interesting. I just had to make a note of it because I've heard that name multiple times this week, and I wasn't going to do any of it, but I just put a little tiny percentage so I don't have none of it, because some of these guys are going to make the cut, and it's just going to be. I mean, you really have to get 6 out of 6, so I want to be heavy on my higher guys, but it's hard not to spread out when you have so many great golfers, and getting to guys like that are tough. But I kind of like the idea of getting a little bit weird. All right, under 7K. Not to make the cut. We're going to go with the best to make under 7K to make the cut.
The best under 7K to make the cut.
You got your guy at the top there. I thought you were going to pick him in a heartbeat.
Oh, no. I mean, you're talking about Reed?
Yeah.
No. I mean, I like Reed. I'm going to have some exposure to him, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to shake out for me. I'm going to go with Bobby Mack.
So you got Bobby Mack. Okay, so I'm going to have to get more of that. And there's a bunch of guys I want to name. Because I'm going to stay on brand, I'm going to say Carlos Ortiz, but I really want to say Taylor Pendrith. I think Taylor Pendrith is the better answer. I think the more contrarian in me wants to say Carlos Ortiz. And then the other one who I actually think is a great chance. And I know I'm supposed to only pick one, but I want to keep this so we actually are giving away information. I think Jaeger has a really good chance to do well here. I really do. I'm very, very high on Jaeger, and I'm sort of flipping back and forth. I raised his projection enough to where I don't think I need to worry about my mins as much, because I've got him a lot higher. I mean, 6 points higher than Faceaberson. All right, under 7K to make the cut.
Under 7K to make the cut. Wait, didn't we just do that?
No, I'm sorry. Under 6K to make the cut.
Under 6K to make.
Oh, okay. Best under 7K. And then...
Okay, I'm gonna go with Sam Stevens.
Okay, so you got Stevens, and I have got McIntyre. I have got Chris Goddard. All right. And now who is over 9K that is going to miss the cut?
Over 9K to miss the cut. Can't lay.
All right. I'm going to say JT. So we both stuck right near the range. And JT can be a member there all he wants, but he's going nowhere this week. No, I'm just kidding. All right, man. Well, it's fun doing this with you. Hopefully we have a great week and we get to sweat out a Sunday sweat, you know, and if you ever come back to California where you live down the street, let me know. Guys, check out the packages we have up there. A lot of great content and would love for you guys to check it out. Anyway, we are going to get out of here. Kenny, anything else?
No, that's all good.